Anybody listening or watching, I want you to think about something in your life that is just a reoccurring problem. Like you can't figure out how to get over it. You can't figure out how to beat it. You can't figure out how to win. However you want to think about it. I know this with certainty. The thinking that keeps getting you to that problem is not going to be the thinking that gets you out of it.
If you lose $1 today, do you just lose it today, or do you actually lose it for forever? Because the loss doesn't just stop today, right? It goes on forever because now it's out of your world. It's transferred to somebody else's pocket, and now it's in their hands on whether they do something with it to create more value, or they spend it, give it away, do something else with it, and give it to somebody else, right? And so when you look at sending $1 somewhere,
Nelson says in Use It or Lose It is when we talked about all these other things, Parkinson's Law, Willie Sutton's Law, arrival syndrome, those are all things related to human nature. In the traditional financial world that beats over our head rate of return, this is where I push back in a loving way when I'm talking to somebody who's only in that world. Why do we spend so much time focusing on things that are mathematical when human nature proves that they don't work over and over and over?
Welcome to the Cashflow Legendz podcast with your hosts Nate, Brandon, and Brock. Remember, our insights are not direct financial advice, so consult with your financial team before making any decisions based on the topics discussed in this show.
Welcome back to Cashflow Legendz. You've all probably immediately noticed, if you're watching, that we're missing one of the team. It's very important that I let everybody know that he wanted to be here, Brock. So this is what he told me. And so far, he hasn't told on himself. So he went to camp last week, youth camp, and his wife. They've been going forever. And he got back Sunday. And Brock, you know about going to camp. When you go to camp, you don't get the normal sleep you get. You don't have the normal routine you normally have. And he felt great. And then he woke up Monday morning and he was sick as a dog, had a fever, and no voice. So that's why we don't have Nate today. But hopefully we can do him proud.
just for the record, just because this is not a competition, I showed up the day after my camp.
Oh, because it's not a competition.
That's right. In case he watches.
Oh, he's good. Oh yeah, he'll watch. I guarantee you. I don't normally watch or listen to these. Brock, do you? Out of pure curiosity.
Never watched one, never listened to one, but I will.
might have listened to 5 minutes here or there, just to kind of hear things. But for the most part, I don't. There's something that I don't enjoy about hearing my own voice, and just it sounds more country to me than I realize, and those kind of things. So I think that's part of it. All right, Brock. Today we're going to be talking about use it or lose it. Now, in your world, before you read Becoming Your Own Banker, did you have any context of use it or lose it, or did you ever heard that thought process or mindset spoken on, or was that the first time you ever came across it?
That was the first time I think I ever came across it. It was just kind of, I think, ingrained in the way of my family's world.
Yes. Yeah. So for anybody newly listening for the first time, when you take Brock, Nate, and I, we all came to IBC, Becoming Your Own Banker, Whole Life Insurance, and how it works from different angles. Brock grew up in a household that was known, understood. Brock's dad, who's mentored Nate and I, and we get to spend a lot of time with Trent, he knew Nelson personally and spent time with him in the early 90s, I think, Brock, if I'm remembering right.
Early 90s, or mid 90s and early 2000s.
Okay. So spent a lot of time with Nelson, which is a blessing for us that we have the ability to be around and pick so many people's brains that knew Nelson personally. And a piece that's so important when you read Becoming Your Own Banker, and Nelson said this often, is that if he would have gone back and rewritten it after the 5th edition in 2000, or the final edition, he would have left the numbers out. He would have left the illustrations out. Brock, touch on that real quick. Why do you think he's on record as saying that to many people we know and trust, and why that's so important first and foremost?
When I think about that, I go back to two mentors of mine, which are my dad and this guy named Bob Castellone, who basically made whole life insurance like not the actual thing, but like made it known to the world of how good it was. And what they talk about often is you really truly don't know it until you can explain it, show people, and help them understand it without numbers. Like the more you master it, the more you can do it without the numbers. And then the second thing that I think of there is oftentimes when you put numbers on a piece of paper and people read it, they just think that that's the book. Like that's just what happens. And it's the same within the investment world. Everybody thinks is, oh, well, this is what the exponential curve looks like. This is what it's going to do. But in reality, it's almost so far away from what it actually occurred in the moment and in that space and time. So I think why he says that is like the numbers are always going to change. And he's realizing people think it's concrete once it's in the book, but the reality is it's not.
And if you go back and you start at the beginning of the book, he says it actually. He says a word of caution is in order. Later in the book, you'll be looking at illustrations, which is numbers, of life insurance policies that show how the concept works. But then he also touches on interest rates are going to go up. They're going to go down. And I think at a very high level, just to understand that that's man-made is an important piece. And we've seen that even, Brock, over our last 10, 12 years, we've seen a very low interest rate environment, and now it's ticking back up. And that's all man-made based off of how much money's poured into the economy from the Federal Reserve and all of these things. So when we know what the problem is, which kind of ties to Brock's point of being able to explain without numbers, it brings us right back to why Nelson said, if you don't grasp the first half of the book, the second half doesn't matter.
Yeah.
First half of the book's about mindset. We've talked about it. Arrival syndrome, Willie Sutton law, Parkinson's law, all these things that keep us where we are in our thinking, Brock. And let's reverse engineer it and say it another way. Anybody listening or watching, I want you to think about something in your life that is just a reoccurring problem. Like you can't figure out how to get over it. You can't figure out how to beat it. You can't figure out how to win, however you want to think about it. I know this with certainty. The thinking that keeps getting you to that problem is not going to be the thinking that gets you out of it. Simple as that. But Brock, how many times do we as humans, because we think we're just so smart, how many times do we keep doing the same thing expecting a different result?
All the time.
Yeah. All the time. And at a simple level, Brock, why is that?
I think oftentimes it's because we don't just take the time to step back and analyze what's going on and say, why is this occurring? Mm-hmm. And then addressing the fact, do I want this result or do I not want this result? If I don't, what needs to occur in my life, in my actions, to not allow this to continue to happen?
And so a lot of times in that point, Brock, we're not only evaluating the way our brain thinks through whatever that thing is, we're going, what is causing us to think through it the way it is, and what do we want to do about it? Mm-hmm. So without going too much in depth, that's a neurological pathway that we've created in our brain. It's the way we think about something. Mm-hmm. So another way to say it is if something happens in your life and the same thing happens and you respond the same way every time and it's not something you're proud of, or it is something you're proud of. That's a habit in your brain. That's a pathway in your brain. This is the same for all walks of life that we experience daily, how we respond to our kids when they frustrate us, or how we respond to our spouse if there's a tough moment that we're trying to understand, or how Brock and I respond when we have a difference of opinion. And so when Nelson talks about in the section we're going to discuss, it's just one page, and it's pretty fitting it's just one page because it really is this simple. He talks about this mindset of this behavior, this awareness of use it or lose it. So, Brock, to your very important point, whatever we are using now, is it getting us to where we want to go? Because there's already something we're doing, right? There's already pathways. So when you read use it or lose it, was there any specific thing that jumps into your mind of like, oh yeah, that really makes a ton of sense in any area of life, not just money? Is there another area that jumps out to you?
Well, just from the title of use it or lose it, you think about your muscle, like the muscles of your body, and
Mm-hmm.
you know what I was thinking about this the other day. If you in high school and college, I could easily throw a baseball from foul pole to foul pole with somebody. It wasn't that hard.
Yep.
Now, if my little brother's at home and he needs to throw and I'm throwing with him, I doubt I can get to 200 feet.
Yep.
I've got to bounce it. I've got to throw it way too high in the air to get it to him, and I'm hurting afterwards. Well, the reason is because I haven't been using it, and so I'm losing it. And so the same is true with everything in our world. If we use it, we're good, but if we don't use it, then we will end up losing it through not being aware of it anymore, or with the fact of somebody else is going to come along and transfer it, take it, something within the wealth world or in our own world. It's just, it's just going to die off.
Yeah. Yep. Brock, I'll never forget reading the statistic, and I may be off a little bit, but I was in my early 30s, and age 30 for me, for whatever reason, because I wasn't in a good place mentally, emotionally, spiritually, was tough. And I remember reading that once you hit 30, being a former athlete and still staying fairly active most of the time, you lose like 1% of your muscle mass every year that you don't use those muscles.
That's right.
And so if you really think about that, nowhere in our life is being stagnant or not fighting gravity, is one of the ways I like to say it, going to create a result physically that is beneficial moving forward, or at least delays what's really happening as we age.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a reason people in other parts of the world live longer. It's because they use their legs, they use their oxygen, they walk after they eat, they digest their food, they use food for their fuel that's better made than what we do in America. That's statistics. Like, you can go find that and prove that in a hurry. But here's the reverse side of it, Brock. When Nelson's talking about use it or lose it, we first have to sit and be still long enough to go, is what I'm using, let's shift to financial mindset now. Am I sure, am I positive, do I have a confidence that it's going to get me to where I want to go? And do I know where I want to go? Because going fast in the wrong direction is just getting further away faster.
Yeah. I think Yogi Berra said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up somewhere else.
I love that. Yeah. But Brock, let's just be very honest. Even when you're coaching me, you challenge me to think where I'm going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even in my newer, more, in my opinion, sounder way to think about money,
mm-hmm.
there's still the need to have my thinking challenged.
Oh yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Because this is where we have to realize we have the opportunity. Let's reframe it. This is where we have the opportunity to realize that what got us there is never going to get us to the next place. And that's even if we're really proud of where we've gotten. There's always going to be something new we can learn.
That's right.
But not only learn, Brock, but apply. Okay. And so when Nelson talks about use it or lose it, I think we have to zoom out before we zoom in. Because there are some people who are already doing things they're very happy with, they understand, they know, and it's going to get them where they think they want to go. And you can't change their mind.
That's right.
And that's okay. Doesn't matter. If they're happy doing what they're doing, we're happy for them. And it might work just great. So let's get that clear. We don't think we've solved the world's problems. We just believe that what we know about whole life will make what you're already wanting to do better.
Right.
And that really unnerves some people when they hear that.
Yeah.
But Brock, I think it circles back around to what you started with. If you can't explain it without numbers or without getting emotionally charged, how well do you really understand it? I heard Myron Golden say it this way. If you have to raise your voice to explain something, you don't understand it.
Agreed.
And boy, I wish I could have been taught that a lot earlier in a lot of things. Because what does it require us to do, Brock, when we say, I'm not going to raise my voice to make this point?
Number one, you gotta have some patience. Sometimes you want to raise your voice because the other person is just not listening.
Yep.
But I think what often, it's funny, you've got to think through not only why am I raising my voice, but is there an internal thing that I'm battling with that I'm not understanding about this situation, which is causing me to lash out like this.
So what I hear you saying is we have to have skills in place to evaluate where we are, which is also called self-awareness or lack thereof. So to lighten the mood a minute, when you're raising children, especially 4 of them, they all have different things that are kind of natural, some good, some bad. And one of the things that we say we're camping this week with lots of the cousins and kids around is some of our kids can read the room way better than others. Said another way, some of them are like, yeah, been here, done that, not going back there again, won't be productive for anybody. And the other ones just walk into it with no clue that they're just about to, it's going to be their own demise. They just keep going.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Brock, I think that also happens with money.
Mm-hmm.
And how money works in our lives is oftentimes it's not that the person doing what they're doing with their money is waking up going, yeah, I really want to go off the cliff on this and I want it to crash and burn and fail. That's hardly ever the case. It's never the case. It's like your dad says often, everyone we interact with is their present day level of their best thinking. I don't remember if that's how he says it exactly, but close enough. So that means that when Brock and I get on this call to visit before we hit record, the thinking that brought us to the conversations we have is we like to believe is the best thinking we have. I don't think we'd ever show up and go, I'm going to give you 3/4 of the best thinking I ever have or half of the best thinking I have.
Yeah.
So we meet people where we're at. So what Nelson says in Use It or Lose It is when we talked about all these other things, Parkinson's law, Willie Sutton's law, arrival syndrome, those are all things related to human nature. In the traditional financial world that beats over our head rate of return, this is where I push back in a loving way when I'm talking to somebody who's only in that world. Why do we spend so much time focusing on things that are mathematical when human nature proves that they don't work over and over and over again. And that'll get somebody fired up in a hurry, because we have to evaluate human nature, which separates us from mathematical equations. Because, Brock, I could hand you the most awesome opportunity ever, or the greatest thing you've ever wanted, or the nicest car that you want. And if you don't take care of it and nurture it and learn how to treat it, it will not stay that way forever.
Correct.
That is in anything.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it from Nelson's point of view when he's talking about use it or lose it. He's kind of helping us make this transition of thinking that this is going to require different thinking. He's going to have to rethink our thinking. If we don't want to rethink our thinking, then this is probably not the avenue to go.
It's correct. And it's not for everybody.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and I struggle with that, Brock, because I want it to be for everybody. Because I know the impact it's had in our life and our peace of mind and our generational thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of been reframing that lately, because the results I've been getting doing what I've been doing weren't working. The reframing of it is can we meet people where we're at in a genuine, humble way, to where even if it isn't for them, we continue having a trusted relationship on other walks of life, and or they know they can come back and open up the conversation again if their thinking changes.
Yeah.
Which for you and I, knowing how much the Lord loves us, that's, in our belief, part of what we should be doing anyway, is loving others like the Lord loves us.
That's right.
And so, and it doesn't matter that it's about money. It might be talking baseball. It might be where your favorite vacation spot is. It might be politics. If any of that supersedes loving others like Christ loved us, we know we're out of alignment.
Yeah.
And so what Nelson is saying is that use it or lose it is a human behavior. And before we hit record, Brock, we said something along the lines of, we always find what we're looking for.
That's right.
So what do you think people are really looking for, or what do you think they're looking for, and they find it, and either they're disappointed in what they found in some of your conversations? Because you interact with different ages than we do often, and kind of different
Demographics.
areas. Demographics.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was looking for that big word.
That was a $2 word.
That was a $3 word if you're from where I'm from. $2 for where you're from.
Yeah. What was the question there, Brandon?
So where do you see people that are in your world and the people that you're interacting with, where do they get stuck on this using something that may not be working for them, and how do you help them kind of bridge that gap, so to speak, with the questions you ask?
Yeah, a lot of times it's just becoming aware of what's going on. One of the things I've been talking a lot about is, some of the key basics in financial planning are you saving at least 15%? If you're not, then we need to start there. Do you have 3 to 6 months of expenses based on your risk tolerance of how much you want liquid? Do you have that saved up somewhere? If not, probably need to start there. Do you have the 3 major catastrophic risks protected? If not, we should probably start there. Do you have a game plan for your debt? If not, we should probably start there. And the reality is, if we just took savings alone, are you saving 15%? No? Okay, well, what do we need to do to become aware of the fact of what you are saving, and then track it so we can measure it, so we can improve it? And if you say that you are saving 15%, show me where you're tracking that, and it's a reality for you. Like, you know that it's occurring. Because again, what you track, you can measure, and what you measure, you can improve. But if you're not tracking it, you're just guessing. So what do we need to do to become aware of the situation that we're in so that if we do want to make an adjustment somewhere, we can do so with the data at hand and the actual results that we have because we've measured it.
And Brock, because you and I love baseball, I'm going to use a baseball example. If I showed up to you, Brock, and you were very successful as a hitting coach, you wouldn't just start coaching me on hitting. You would probably watch me for a little while. You probably ask me some questions. You probably say, what are some things that I notice that continue to be a problem for me, to see what I understand about my current thinking. And then we would slowly but surely, with long range thinking, map out a plan that we feel good about because we have said this is what matters and we want to measure this so we can take the next steps. Well, what that's also called is we can talk about it all day long, Brock, and I can think about it. But we're also going to schedule time where I show up consistently to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a piece that I think I didn't realize until doing what we get to do now for 7+ years, is there is some false sense of security when I do what someone tells me to with my money and don't have to think about it but once a year and be told it's going to work, when I haven't really even thought about what does it's going to work mean. And what you're talking about, Brock, going through those steps and what Bob Castellone did with what he did, he was working at the same time as Nelson from a different angle. What Bob helped us realize, that helped Nate and I, is that whole life is just the financial heart of the life we're going to live anyway. It's the thing that's going to turbo boost the other things that we're trying to do once we understand what's really going on. And when we understand that, we realize there's nothing else we can do in life, Brock, where you go, I want to put on 20 pounds of muscle, and I give you the plan to do it, and you just look at the piece of paper. And I start making up the rates of return on your muscle increase efficiency. Because you still have to do the work. You still have to be in control of the variables. You still have to open the door, which many say is the heaviest weight in the weight room, to get in. Then you got to do the work. And then you got to learn from what you did. And then you got to not experience catastrophic injuries that make you start over.
Yep.
Well, all those things related to lifting weights or getting healthy are the exact same things Brock described earlier on what he's taking people through and the questions to ask. Hey, do you have this? Hey, do you have that? Because those things build on the next level of building a sound foundational framework to build on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reminded of an Ernst & Young study. I've heard it a couple of times, but it was brought up this morning in another conversation I was having. And Ernst & Young basically proves statistically, okay, that adding whole life to your portfolio, even if you love investing in the market, increases your chances of success of getting to where you want to go by like almost to 100%.
Yeah.
Like 93 or 4 or something like that, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So if Ernst & Young did that statement or did that study, and that makes you, when you hear that, be bothered, when you hear the word whole life, that's really the thing that you need to lean into. Because Ernst & Young's not just making that stuff up. And if you don't know who Ernst & Young is, they do a ton of great research that's really insightful if you want to nerd out.
Yeah, they're smart people.
Very smart people, way smarter than me. But it gives you a lot of context that the majority of what we think is going on, Brock, is not always exactly what's going on.
That's right.
And so Nelson says this: accepting a totally new point of reference means that one must develop new habits. If we don't want new habits, but we want something new, that math doesn't math.
It does not. math.
No matter how we dice it. There's just no way around it. So, Brock, let's touch on EVA just a little bit that Nelson talked about. Nelson talked about economic value added and that all money has a cost. And just touch on that a little bit on what he was really trying to help us understand in our own personal environment. And I want to be very clear, everybody listening, watching. We're not just talking about if you're a business owner, Brock.
That's right.
We're talking about in your personal household.
Yeah.
All right. So what is economic value added, or EVA?
I was thinking through this whole podcast, Brandon, you ask the questions all the time, and we rarely get to hear from you and your perspective. This is not me. This is not me dodging the question. I'm going to, like, you're smart. You know how this whole system works.
Yep.
And because Nate's not here today, I'm going to give it to you too. So first, how would you describe economic value added so people know, like, hey, Brandon knows his stuff. He's got this.
All right. That's good. So first, every dollar that flows through our life has a cost. And the simplest way I think about it is I'll ask myself, when this dollar comes into our personal economy, my wife makes money, I make money, we earn money from the business. What is the long range cost if that dollar leaves our life and we never have it again? Like, what's the lost opportunity? And just keep it simple. And so the value of that is hard to comprehend because nobody ever knocks on our shoulder 10 years from now and goes, hey, that $550,000 or that $25,000 or that $50,000 that passed through you had value. And they also don't tell us that it went to someone else's pocket who knew how to treat it better,
Mm-hmm.
who knew how to add value to it and never lose it and pass it on to the next and the next and the next. This is no different, Brock, than if we replace money with the type of heritage we want to leave inside our children. There's a value, a lost opportunity of not spending time with them and not putting them around people and not having conversations that are in alignment with what values we want to share with them. Now, here's the kicker. I can talk about economic value all day long in that sense, but talking about it and living it are two different things. So I can understand it and not be living it.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I know with 4 kids in our house, and I'm going to bounce it back over to you on the ping pong table. I can tell them all day long they need to do these things, but if they don't see me living those things and teaching through my actions, the world is going to teach them what is the thing that they should be doing, and the world loves to do that.
That's right.
So there has to be value added in the areas that we know matter the most, but we have to know why that matters. Our dollar's just an inanimate object right now. It's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to challenge people to think of it as energy. Is energy leaving your life, or is it boosting your life and the life you want to live?
Yeah.
All right. What's EVA to you?
I think you did a good job of that. And I think, an easy way to think through one of the questions you asked, which was about losing money, right? Everything has a cost. Well, if you lose $1 today, do you just lose it today? Or do you actually lose it for forever? Because the loss doesn't just stop today, right? It goes on forever because now it's out of your world. It's transferred to somebody else's pocket. And now it's in their hands on whether they do something with it to create more value, or they spend it, give it away, do something else with it, and give it to somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at sending $1 somewhere, right, there's 4 things you can do with it. You can save it, you can spend it, you can invest it, you can give it away. On an economic value added standpoint, when you think about putting your money into something, there's the cost, there's the price, and then there's the value. The cost is the economic cost of that decision. The price is the dollar amount that required that transaction or that decision. And then the value was, what did it create because of that decision moving forward. And every decision we have has a cost, right?
Mm.
If I decide that I want to compound my money, and let's say that I have 100 grand in a bank account earning 5% over 30 years, it will grow to, at 5% every year, 432 grand, give or take a few. That is what will happen. However, that decision costs me taxes each year because of the earnings, which would amount to somewhere around like $72,000 at a 24% rate. But then because I lost those dollars to the government, it cost me another 5% on those dollars because I wasn't able to put them in this fund.
Mm.
And if I bought term insurance, the cost was the term insurance premiums, but then what those term insurance premiums would have grown to if I was able to put them somewhere else.
Yep. Yeah. And no, keep going, bro.
So you have that, but then you want to think through, all right, well, if I did something with these dollars instead, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to take the earnings from that account and buy whole life insurance. Well, the value of that is I have permanent protection, I have creditor protection, I have disability waiver of premium protection, I've got long-term care protection, I've got estate liquidity protection, and I've got cash value that I can use along the way, all while reducing my cost of the term insurance cost and the taxes I would have paid somewhere else. And so you always want to have a thought process around what's the economic value added for this decision I'm making. Is it costing me or is it growing towards something else? And there are some things, right? And this is a place where I differ on most infinite banking people, is I think there's no reason for you at all, unless it's like a last case scenario, that you should use your cash value, borrowing against your cash value, to do things like vacations or groceries or pay your tax bill. To me, there's no economic value added. Yes, your cash value continues to grow, but if we're going to be an honest banker, where does that new money come from? Me, if I spend money on my groceries, yes, the value is created in that I get to eat with my family, but there is no economic value benefit back to my policy because my groceries did not create an income source back to my policy to replenish that loan.
Yep. So, Brock, I'm going to say it a different way, because I think we can both, that everybody can listen and hear our different points of view on this in a good way. What, Brock, I think you're saying is, for everybody listening, is if I'm going to take a policy loan, Brock's going to look to put it in something that's going to create new value coming back. So maybe a down payment on a rental house, or an investment.
A mastermind group, or you name it.
Ooh, say that again, Brock.
Or a mastermind group.
This is a key piece. We very rarely think about economic value added and our own ability to grow. We're just not trained in America, at least from my conversations typically, unless it's a very successful business mind, to think what value would be brought to my household as a mother or a father if mom and dad took a policy loan and invested $5,000 this year, 1%, 2%, 5% of their income, in growing in areas that they wanted to improve in. Because what does that require, Brock, to get to that point? We got to first know what we want to improve in, which means we got to do some looking in the mirror. We may have to ask some tough questions. I can tell you, my wife and I just hit 18 years of marriage. I don't know if it ever gets easier for me to look her in the eye and go, tell me where you see I could be better as a husband and as a father and as a leader. It's not comfortable. But as compared to what, Brock? We got to decide.
Yeah.
So that's what you're talking. Yep. There you go. So one of my favorite things to teach our new members when they ask about how should I use a policy loan and they're not really aware of the world of putting money into investments, and that would be a new thing they're trying to learn. Where's somewhere you and your husband are wanting to grow? Well, we're really, really not pleased with our fitness levels right now. Hey, go get you a trainer. Commit to showing up 3 days a week and tell me that the ripple effect of that decision won't benefit other things.
That's right.
And so economic value is a very important thing. So I'm challenging kind of more of our, what was that big $2 word you used earlier?
Demographic.
Yeah. Our demographic, but also Brock's demographic. So our demographic, we work with a lot of married couples that are, have kids, and maybe business owners may not. But you have economic value that you can latch onto, create, and expand on in your household. If we think of how our household's running like a business, how efficient is it running? Is it profitable each year? And I'm not just talking about profitable with rate of return and money. I'm talking about mindset and behavior and ability to adapt and growing in an area where we were weak and getting around people who know more than us. And so Nelson says this to end this section: just like economic value added, to be effective, the infinite banking concept must become a way of life. You must use it or lose it. And so here's where that's helped me a lot, Brock, lately. If I don't think through the lens of economic value added as my way of life, I still have another way of life that is the lens I see and operate on life. Doesn't mean it may not be established. I may not be able to define it, but it's still there.
That's right.
And so this self-awareness, I think, Brock, is a key point from all of this. And we'll tidy up on this and finish here. If you're driving down the road listening, or you're watching this on YouTube, or you're talking about it with a friend of yours, the first question we have to ask ourselves that I think is so valuable is there any area of my life related to my faith, my family, my fitness, and my finances that I would like to grow in or have value added? If the answer is no to all those, and you got it figured out, then you probably are suffering from a little bit of a rival syndrome. Okay, and I mean that lovingly, because we all can suffer from that. I do often. But if you'll probably naturally have at least one thing that pops into your mind in all those areas pretty quickly. If you just sit and think on it, write it down. Write down one thing, and be specific. Brock's touched on that a bunch. Vague goals create vague results. Specific goals require specific actions that create specific effects. And so write those down and start there. What I can promise you, and Brock can promise you, is whether we like it or not, this little thing called the dollar bill, or whatever the medium of exchange is going to be intertwined through all that somehow. There ain't no way around it.
Yep.
I think it was Zig Ziglar who said that money's like oxygen. It's not everything, but it's right up there, or something like that. It's important.
Sure helps a lot.
It sure helps a lot. Yeah. So we hope this has been a blessing to you. Brock, I appreciate your insight, and thanks for throwing me a curveball where you put me on the hot seat. I love how your mind works there and always thinking like that. More than anything, Brock and I never shy away from the fact that knowing the Lord and loving the Lord is the most important thing that we hope we communicate in all of our interactions. We just happen to be blessed to be able to talk about something we love with infinite banking and money and whole life and all that. But at the end of the day, knowing Jesus is the thing that matters to us the most, and we want to share that with you more than anything. If money comes up as well, great. Till the next one, we hope you have a great time, great rest of your week. We'll see you again on the next one.